Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the first episode of StarFlower Journals. Okay, thank you for being here, first of all. Thank you for taking the time and the energy in watching this podcast. Let me explain a little bit about this podcast and why it has been created and what the intention is behind me doing this, okay? So, I created a podcast a couple of months ago where I felt it was a platform for me to talk about my journey and what I'm experiencing along my journey. And when I talk about my journey, you can either say it as a spiritual journey, a consciousness journey, an evolution journey, a growth journey. It doesn't necessarily matter as to regards as how you label that, okay? Because what I'm experiencing and what I'm seeing is that everybody has their own journeys along their life, regardless if it's spiritual or if it's not, okay? So I am a person that finds it really difficult to open up. And I found a way where I could talk about my experiences, and my experiences in some way or other may help beautiful souls out there that may be struggling along their path or seeking more information or want to gain a wider knowledge base against or about the consciousness journey or the spiritual journey or the growth journey or the evolution journey, as I said before. So with that, I took a little bit of a sabbatical, as you do. I retreated a little bit, and this all came forward that I was to create this platform on YouTube and also on Spotify, Audible, Amazon, like various places where you can find podcasts, and invite beautiful souls that I personally know that to come on and talk about their journey, what they've experienced in life, because everybody's journey is different. Everybody's perspectives are different. My perspectives ain't necessarily going to be your perspectives. And I find it absolutely fascinating to listen to other people's perspectives, other people's awareness, other people's journeys, because we're all different. We're all unique. We're all this beautiful little package where we experience things differently. And my journey may not necessarily resonate with you today, but many other beautiful souls that I've invited to come on this platform, their journey may resonate with you. So the intention is to bring an awareness of the certain journeys that people can go through and how they've navigated their life, how they've got to the places where they need to go to, how they manage certain challenges that we may experience in life, whether that's life in general or spirituality or the conscious mind, because everything and everyone is different. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey from the very moment I entered this earth up until this very moment in time. And my journey, I would say, has been, now I don't want to put a negativity on it, has been a very interesting journey, shall we say. And I'm very thankful for that journey and for all the beautiful souls that I met along the way within this journey, because they made me who I am with all the experiences that I gained from these beautiful souls. I wouldn't be here talking to you today if it wasn't for them. So let's begin. Let's begin. Let's talk about this consciousness journey. Let's talk about all the different things, shall we say, that can happen along your journey. And what I will say is my opinions are my opinions, my perspectives are my perspectives, and I can only talk about my experience, okay? What I say today isn't going to be factual or fact, okay? I will ask everyone that's watching this today to use their own dissonance, but also to use their own resonance. What I mean is by that is when I'm talking about my journey and talking about the things I experienced and the knowledge and the wisdom and the tools that I discovered along the way, is take from that if it feels right, then make it your own. And this is what I've experienced. There's so many information out there with regards to how to meditate, how to look after your energy, how to navigate certain things in life. And we can be really regimental with that. And to a point, I was really regimental with that. But what I've done is I've adapted certain tools that have been brought forward to me and made them my own. And this is how this works. From my experience, this is how this works. You know, as we go through life and as we go through the certain things, we can become really disconnected from who we truly are. And there may come a point in time where you don't recognize yourself anymore. And I certainly was that individual. You know, I had experienced so much in my life that one day I woke up to the self and went, I don't know who I am. Like, if I were to ask you today, who are you? Who are you? How would you describe yourself? And I asked myself those questions about 4 years ago, and I was really stuck when I answered that question. I was really, really stuck. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was about. I didn't know certain aspects about myself. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what I wanted in life. I didn't know where I was going. I was completely lost. Completely lost. So I'm going to talk about my journey. And this is the point of this. Everybody that you will see within these podcasts or hear within these podcasts are beautiful souls that will come on and will talk about their experiences and their journey. So, I was graciously entered into this world in 1983. And, you know, from the very moment I entered this earth, it wasn't an easy feat. My mother and father had great difficulty in getting me out of the hospital when I was born. I was a very sickly baby. And you know, you can maybe take that as the soul reincarnates into the vessel here. It may be happy or it may not. And from what I can gather and from what I've heard was my soul was not very happy to be back here. And this is this is something that you may experience along your journey is, why did I come here? What is my purpose here? Why did I put myself through this? Okay, what do I mean by that? Our soul, and this is, again, take what resonates. Our soul can reincarnate through various lifetimes for various experiences, for various, you know, learning outcomes, for soul evolution and for soul growth. And before we enter this world, we choose certain experiences and certain people, and some people may say they're contracts, but I don't necessarily like that word contracts. I like the word agreements. So we choose who we are gonna enter into agreements with, i.e., our parents, our relationships, our children, our, animals, like everything, every experience, every challenge that you have encountered in your life has been for a reason, has been for a purpose. And some may find that very difficult to take on board and to understand. I say the word understand because understand for me is I don't stand under anyone, but nobody stands under me. So you will hear me say the word understand. So when I say understand, I mean understand. So we choose certain experiences, and like I said, some people may find that quite difficult because there are very dark moments along your life and your life path. So I had chosen to come in, quite sickly, and for me it was what shall we say? A choice. You could say maybe earthly sickness. But anyway, so that in itself was quite difficult for my parents to deal with. However, I got out of the hospital, thankfully, and my life began. And my parents, my mother and my father, whom I love dearly, were very hard working individuals. And they had certain things going on in their life. And, as I was growing up, I was experiencing certain things in my life, shall we say. I had certain abilities as a child. I could see spirit, I could hear spirit, and I could sense energy. Okay. Now, as I've discovered along this journey, energy is a very important factor. And I will talk a lot about that and how that can affect your physicality. I have done many videos on TikTok, Facebook, my other channel, Galartic, where I've spoke about certain things with regards to energy. So energy is a very important factor when we're on this journey. And when I first woke up, I had no idea what energy was, but we'll get to that point. So I was experiencing certain things in my life, and I would talk to my parents about it. I would, see other beings as such. And sometimes it can be put down as, the child has a very active imagination. And it can be dismissed, and that's okay because, what I'm seeing also in the world is that there's not a lot of understanding with regards to, certain things that may happen in a child's life. So whenever I would come forward and say certain things, it would be, oh, it's just your imagination, which in my opinion can shut down certain, abilities, certain skills, certain gifts. So it was around about, the age of 10, I would say, that these gifts kind of subsided, but I always had this interest. For instance, I was absolutely fascinated with palmistry. I had books and books of it when I was a little girl. And I would sit and study my hands and read my own palms. I was also fascinated with witch stuff, at school I would have a little witch club, and all my friends would like be the good witches, and we would cast magical spells and blah 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 as a child. And for me this was like really good fun. So I go into my teenagehood, and I found life really quite difficult. I noticed that I was different from everyone else. And that's not from an ego side of things. Some people could take me, some people couldn't take me. And, it was either a love me or hate me kind of scenario when I was growing up. And I was playing in certain society um games, as you do. You go to school, you are taught to be a certain way, you're taught how to behave, you're taught how to respect, you're taught how to, you know, act and be in society. And for me, when I talk about that, it's almost like it pulls you away from who you truly are. So when I entered my teenagehood, I was confused as to who I truly was because I I felt I could had like I was this person, but society said that that wasn't normal. I wasn't normal to be spiritual. It was something to be frowned upon. It was something like if you seen certain things or you spoke about certain things, like for instance, oracle decks or tarot decks or angels, that was a form of, not so good energy. Okay, let's put it that way. So I learned to, maybe not open up to certain people about, things that I was interested in, and then I started masking to fit into society. What do I mean by that? So I started being someone that I wasn't, to fit in, to feel accepted. And sometimes, that was accepted and sometimes it wasn't. And I experienced a lot of bullying as I was getting older. Throughout my teenage years, I got bullied quite a lot at school. And that had an effect on me growing up. So it wasn't until I was around about 18 that, things started coming online again. I started seeing spirit, I started feeling into things, and had a huge interest in it. I would go and see psychic mediums or, and again, when I spoke about that, that was like, oh, you shouldn't be doing stuff like that and blah, 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 that's the devil. And I found that really quite difficult because for me, I'd always been this individual that had, had this huge interest, and I found it really quite difficult to open up to certain people about the things that I was experiencing. So in turn, that silenced me. However, I had a beautiful friend that I was close to that had transitioned. What do I mean by transitioned? Passed away, left this earth plane, died. And this particular individual started coming to me in dream time. Now, growing up, I always had very vivid dreams, and I always saw things within these dreams. Some people may call them premonitions, and I'd get messages. And again, I couldn't talk about that because if I talked about that, I would be frowned upon, I would be judged, I would be labeled. And I was scared to talk about things, she's crazy. She's a crazy individual. So from there, this individual, this beautiful soul kept coming to me and was giving me certain information and telling me things. And I would get confirmation that the things that they were coming and telling me was accurate. And I was really confused as to that, but also very scared. So I reached out to a psychic medium by the name of Gladys Seller. She's a psychic medium within Aberdeenshire area. And I reached out to her for a reading. Now, how old was I? I must have been about 19, 20, 19 or 20 at the time. 20. It was 20. And I reached out to her and I went along to her for a reading. And she came down, we had the reading, and she said, "You're reading a book." Now, I was always reading spiritual books growing up. I just had this huge, vast interest. Like, I always felt there was something more to life than what we were actually being told. So she said, "You're reading this book," and it was a book by Mia Dolan. I remember it clearly. I couldn't remember it a couple of weeks ago when I was off, but I remember it now. I remember it clearly, and she was talking about her awakening, her journey up until the point she awoke and how she could see spirit, etc. And I felt really comforted by that because I felt like I wasn't alone in that situation. I wasn't alone with the experiences that I had experienced as a child and a teenager. And I was gobsmacked when she said, "You're reading this book," because I actually was. And from there, the beautiful Gladys, she adopted me as such. We became really, really good friends. And I'm very thankful to her because, again, would I have been here? And this is what I mean by agreements. My soul had already agreed with our beautiful Gladys to wake me up at that point. And Gladys taught me the basics with regards to connectivity to the self, but also the connection to spirit, the chakras within the body, auras, and also angels, as well as mediumship. So she was teaching me all this stuff, and I had actually said to Gladys, "Why don't you, set up classes? That would be so beneficial for other beautiful souls that, want to go along this journey." And she actually did. So she started, building again an agreement where we'd come together. She would help me and I would help her. So she, started these classes and she's actually doing them to this day, which is beautiful. And I'm so thankful. So I went, through that experience for many years, and sometimes I would tap into it and sometimes I wouldn't. And when I wouldn't tap into that, I was getting distracted by life. I was getting distracted by, as the young teenagers do, drink, going out and partying, boys, relationships. And that kind of pulled me away a little bit from who I truly was. And I forgot who I was. But when these certain individuals came into my life, I was adapting who I was to fit in. And what I was experiencing in certain relationships, whenever I would delve into who I truly was, it wasn't accepted. They didn't feel comfortable. Some beautiful souls ran away from me because I had certain abilities. I could feel things, I intuitively knew things, and they find that quite difficult, and that's okay. So I then met an individual, which I'm very thankful for, who I have my beautiful children with. And this individual, again, who I had an agreement with, showed me certain things about myself that I didn't know, showed me things that I didn't like about myself, and also showed me things that I do like about myself. And that was a very difficult relationship. It was very challenging, but also had its beautiful moments as well. And I ended up having both my girls with this individual. And it was a push and pull kind of relationship. And the relationship broke down, and that's fine. That was beautiful in itself. But at that moment in time, where I was on a consciousness level, I didn't see it how I see it now. I saw it as everything was happening to me. I saw it as, poor me, I'm a victim. And with that, there was a little bit of resentment that built up with that. And when these relationships happen, we really can't see the woods for the trees at that moment in time. And, certain things happened in my life, tower moments, shall we say. And when I talk about tower moments, these are tower moments where you maybe describe as the most difficult and challenging times. And these are opportunities to wake up. And we all have choice. And my soul at that moment in time did not choose to wake up at each given opportunity, each tower moment that was, within that relationship, but also within my life. Certain things would happen. I would have dreams and I would choose not to listen to that, again, out of fear. But there was always this intuition. And this intuition would kind of keep me right in certain things. But I took it for granted. I didn't actually know what was going on. I could have sat with it all and seen the bigger picture, but at that moment in time, I couldn't. So, from there, again, another tower moment happened in 2020. A very dark tower moment. And with that tower moment, there was a lot of fear. There was a lot of unsurety. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel secure. And this was before the big, what happened in 2020. So I was a very scared individual. I didn't know who I was. There was so much going on in my life. I was overwhelmed. And with that, I became really poorly. I had been diagnosed with various autoimmune conditions and also PTSD, CPTSD. And I really didn't know who I was. Like, I was completely lost. I was completely disconnected from life itself. But I knew I had to keep going. I knew for my girls. I had to keep going for my girls. And I was just trying to navigate life the best that I could. So our beautiful Gladys knew a beautiful soul. And this beautiful soul by the name of Joanne Dunn, who I'm also very thankful for, she reached out to Gladys and asked if she could maybe help me with everything that was going on. And she did. She came in and she said, can I come in and tune into your energy, tune into your home and clear whatever's going on there? Now at that time I was like, oh wow, like, can you do that? So she came in and she cleaned my energy and she cleaned my home, and what she was telling me like blew my mind. I had no idea. And I was absolutely fascinated at this point in time. And I would say within 3 days of that, my life went flipped. And it had to flip. When we're going along this journey and when, you're working on your own energy, there will be moments where your life will flip upside down. And again, you could maybe say there was another tower moment. And this tower moment was an opportunity for me to wake up. But again, did I? No. I was still very much in the matrix as such. What do I mean by the matrix? The illusion. What do I mean by the illusion? What we've always been told, what we've always been taught, what we've always seen, what we've always been programmed to do as a human. And again, there was a lot of fear, there was a lot of anxiety, and I was kind of like still playing into that, a little bit scared, unsure as to who I was, unsure as to what was happening in my life. But then one day, I was lying in bed one night and I was scrolling through, Facebook, as you do. And I came across this video and something made me watch it. And when I watched it, something happened. It was almost like my soul had been removed from the human, the vessel, and elevated and could see absolutely everything. I could see everything in the world. I could see everything that happened in my life. I could see the illusions that I'd been playing into. I could see the victimhood that I was playing into. I could see everything. And all I could do was cry. I cried my eyes out the whole night. because I couldn't believe what I saw. And at that point, I thought I was going nuts, like crazy. And I'd reached out to our beautiful Joanne and I'd said, I know what you mean now. Like, I understand, I can see everything, blah, blah, blah. And all I could do was cry. And I remember that to this day, she said to me, it's okay. It's okay with what you're feeling. You're not going crazy. You've literally popped your head out of 3D, which is this reality, this illusion reality that we all currently play in, and you've popped your head up into 4D. And I was like, 3D, 4D, like, what's that? It is a multidimensionality as such. And we'll get into this, as we have beautiful souls coming on and talking about their experience. So I was like, again, what's 3D? What's 4D? Like, really interested. So I then went down this rabbit hole, and this rabbit hole took me on so many paths, and I'm so grateful for this rabbit hole because I done research into my energy, how energy worked. I done research into the reality and certain truths within this reality. I done research into who I was as an individual, and things started to unfold from there. And Joanne took my hand at that moment in time and she showed me how to clean my energy, how to look after my energy, and certain things would happen. And I started going through, some may say, purges or dark nights of the soul. And those were not very nice moments. I remember saying to Joanne, oh my God, it feels like I threw up like something from The Exorcist. Because as I started learning to work on my energy and clearing my energy, certain things would be removed, certain things would come up. Because as we go through this journey and we go through certain traumas and certain grief and certain sadness and hurts and pain, and all this started coming together, and it all started to come up to the surface for me to learn and understand why certain things happened in my life, and realizing that they weren't happening to me, they were happening for me to get me to that point in that moment in time, and for me to reconnect as to who I truly am. So I was bamboozled, going along this journey, but I found it so fascinating. And, I will say, looking back in the year 2020, it wasn't an easy year. It wasn't an easy year for majority of us on this planet. We were experiencing so much. And for me, that on top of, my own, consciousness journey, shall we say, was a little bit overwhelming. However, I remained true to myself and I kept working on my energy. And certain magical moments would happen in that lifetime. And there was one day that I was like, I need to pick up a paintbrush. Now, as a child, I was always very good at art. I was very interested in art. Even in my teenagehood, I was very good in art class. I loved painting. I even went to college to do my art folio because I wanted to go to university and study art. But as I was doing art at college, etc., it didn't feel right to me. And it always felt like, why? Art is what you see and how you perceive that. So why would I entertain someone else's perception as to how my art should be? So I never really took part in university, etc. And I gave up art because I was like, well, there's no place for me to do that here because, again, somebody else's perception is being placed upon me. Therefore, I can't paint what I truly feel and what I'm truly seeing. Because, again, somebody's perception is, guiding that. So I pulled away from it. So in 2020, when I started working on my energy and going through these dark nights of the soul, and I mean, they were tough. They were really tough. I had to really look in the mirror and look at who I was as an individual. And that is not something like I would say is for the faint-hearted as you're doing this journey. I had to really own who I was. I had to really own, you know, all the roles that I played in life, all the parts that I played in life. I had to really take responsibility for everything, for the interactions that I had, for the hurt that I caused. I could see that the hurt that they caused me, I also caused hurt, because as the saying goes, hurt people hurt people. So I had to understand everything that happened to me in life. And, there's certain layers being worked through because we have this energy field and there's so many layers to this energy field. And what I perceive and what I've seen as we're going through life, certain things can sit within this energy field. And when we recognize that energy of all those traumas, etc., and we work through it, it gets released. And sometimes it has to be released in a certain way. And, for me, it was, vomiting, fatigue, feeling really tired. But then I would feel brand new the day after. So I kind of knew that this was a purge, this was a dark night of the soul. And majority that watch this, that may be on their, consciousness journey or their soul evolution and growth, would recognize and resonate with what I'm saying. So the more I worked on my energy and the more that I was bringing things up to the surface and the more that I was releasing, I started reconnecting to who I truly was. I started recognizing who I was as a person, as a soul, and as an individual. And certain magical moments like were happening in my life. I would have certain opportunities, of collaborations with our beautiful Joanne or other beautiful individuals. And there's still this strong urge to pick up a paintbrush. I was like, I've never painted in like 20 years. Like, it's been 20 years since I actually painted. So I was like, okay, well, fair enough. But at that moment in time, being a single parent, I was really struggling financially. So I had to trust. And what happened was certain individuals in my life whom I love dearly started buying me things without me even asking them. They bought me paintbrushes, they bought me canvases, like for birthdays and Christmas and stuff. And I was like, whoa. And what happened was I seen certain images in my head and I would like, I have to paint that. And there was one night I was in dream time and this being came to me. It was a blue being, a blue alien. Now, growing up, I was always fascinated with space and, NASA and, aliens, UFOs. And I would continuously watch like certain UFO channels and sightings, etc. because I was just absolutely fascinated. So when this blue alien came to me in dream time, I was like, oh my Lord, I'm losing it. And he came to me and he said, I'm here to heal your meridians. And he put his hands out like this. And energy started coming from his hands. And I could feel the energy working on me. And at that time, I was poorly. I had a cold, I had a flu. And he started working on me. And I woke up going, what on earth was that? Like, I was really confused. Because, at that time, I didn't have an understanding of certain beings or, multidimensionality. All I knew was about my energy and working on my energy and, certain things that was going on with that. So I was really confused. So I started looking into certain beings and I discovered that there are many various beings like Arcturians, Pleiadians, Syrians, Nordics, you name it, Lyrans. Like there's so many other beings out there. Now bear with me if you're sitting here going, oh my God, she's nuts. There's profound proof that these beings exist, okay? So I was like, oh, what's going on here? So he healed my meridians. And then a few weeks later, I think, he came back to me and he said, you need to paint me. I was like, I need to paint you. Oh, okay. Now, I had painted our beautiful Joanne a painting that I'd seen, and she had already said to me, do you realize what you've done? And I was like, no, I have no idea. I just painted what I saw. And she said, you've painted a version, a multi-dimensional version of me. I was like, whoa. So that took me back a little bit. And I was like, oh my Lord, like, what's that all about? So I then had another session with a beautiful individual by the name of Rion Derowan. He's in the States. And I was speaking to him about my journey, etc. And he was tapping into certain things about my energy and my consciousness level, etc. And he'd said to me, oh, yes, I see you doing this. I see you painting. I see you working with geometry and crystals. And he said, and this is what you need to do. Now, prior to that, I already had a feeling that there was something with crystals that I needed to do with the painting. So in my mind, I thought I had to like crush crystals and put it into the paint. But he's like, no, you have a skill, a set that can work with sacred geometry. And I was like, what's sacred geometry? Like, even at that moment in time, I didn't know what sacred geometry was. So then I went down another rabbit hole where I started looking into sacred geometry and what that actually was. My mind was blown. It was everywhere. It was in the Bible, it was in ancient text, it was like the knowledge with regards to that is fascinating. If you go back through all the ancient texts and history, there's sacred geometry in everything. Back to the Mayans, the Egyptians, like there's sacred geometry. So I was like, oh. Then I got like information. When I say information channeled through me, like my soul, the energy was coming into my energy field to start working with sacred geometry. And I had to place this on a painting along with crystals. So I was like, oh, fascinating. So I, crushed up some crystals, placed it on my geometry, and then I painted this blue being, which is known as an Arcturian. And I took a step back and I went, ugh. Like it was unreal when I looked at that painting and he said, call me Philip Joe. And information started coming through about Galartic. Now, Galartic is channeled art that works with sacred geometry and sacred geometric patterns that work on energy fields. But we're not talking about this today. We're talking about the journey. And from there, my soul started to accelerate. My soul started to grow. And I also, like, during that moment in time, 2021, the end of 2021, my beautiful mum transitioned. And that was a moment in time where, again, I had another awakening as to who I was as an individual. And it was another, like, soul growth, soul acceleration, where I delved into the quantum, I delved into frequencies, I delved into vibrations, I delved further into energies and how that works within the physicality. And I came across this beautiful quantum device called the Keeley, and I started working with that and working with individuals and seeing how, that started, working on their energy. And I found that fascinating. So again, I felt like there was more that I needed to learn about that. And the more that I learned about that, I learned about, the certain energy systems within the body. And from there, I could understand how my sacred geometric paintings, channeled paintings, would work on an energy field. And again, that's fascinating. So from there was more like healing to do, shall we say. There was more bringing things up to the surface and looking at it. There was more understanding who I was. And even at that moment in time, I was still disconnected to the self. Really disconnected to the self. Still. because I couldn't step into this place of love for who I was as an individual. I couldn't accept me as who I am now. There was still this little bit of fear and this little bit of, I don't want to be seen. I don't want anybody, to know who I am and what I'm about, because it's still frowned upon in this like society and where I live. It's not really understood. People see you as being crazy or different. So I kind of hid, and I still am to a degree where I live, because, you know, I can guarantee I'm being judged and labeled as being nuts or full of myself, or, you know, um, not normal. And ask yourself, what is actually normal? If you look at the definition normal, it's sometimes described as how you should be in society, right? So again, we're going back to the bullying when I was a kid, where I wasn't accepted for who I was as a child. And, I hid and I masked because, I was trying to, go along with the terms and rules of society. When you grow up, you should get married, you should have kids, you should have a big house and a big fancy car and a decent job. And, if you have all those things, then you're accepted. And that had big effect on my life because, that didn't work out for me. It didn't work out for me and I felt like a failure. So then depression and everything became in because, I didn't feel accepted. Like, I wasn't normal. Because that's how society portrays us to be. And I couldn't recognize who I was because society said that I wasn't normal. So I was so disconnected to myself because, this depression and everything came in because, I wasn't going along with the rules of society. And, I was like questioning what's wrong with me. There was nothing wrong with me. I was just different. So where was I? So with the painting and everything and connecting it to quantum and stuff, I really started to know who I was, and I started allowing myself to step a little bit more into the world. And what I've noticed, even up until this day, is that I'll kind of like go out into the world and pull myself back a little bit because I don't feel safe. And it wasn't recently that I discovered that I've never felt safe in this world. Never. I've never felt safe in relationships. I've never felt safe with certain individuals in my life. I've just never felt safe because I've never been allowed to be safe. I've never really had anyone in my life until like I would say a year ago, where I felt like I was being understood. And sometimes, even now, I do feel like I'm misunderstood, but that's okay because what I've learned is there's so many different levels of consciousness, there's so many different levels of perspective. And what one person's consciousness and perspective isn't necessarily going to be my own. So can I accept that and allow that and not allow that to have an effect on me? Yes, I can. And I've found that quite difficult throughout my whole life. And with that, I've always felt misunderstood. And it's not that person's job to understand who I am, because they need to be them and they need to understand who they are. So I was like, okay, I can be me, unapologetically me. And if people can understand who I am, wonderful. And if they can't, they can't. And that's okay because, they're on a different path, they're on a different journey. And, I accept them. And if they can't accept me, then so be it. So this has been the path, this has been the journey for me in delving into certain things. And I'm still learning, like, when you're on this journey and when you're on this consciousness path, there's so many layers to it. And, all you can do is be true to who you are. And I spoke about loving yourself. I couldn't love myself because I thought I was a failure. I thought I hadn't, I'd failed society. I wasn't accepted. I, like, some people deem me crazy or, like a Satanist because, like, I dealt with certain energies and I'd paint certain things. And that's okay. That's okay. Even people that watch this right now may be like, she's bonkers. And that's okay. Like, that's your truth, and I respect your truth. So we move through so many layers and go through so many energies and go through so many certain things that happen in our life. And I've got the beautiful bear here. This is my beautiful boy. He's a Springer Spaniel, so he may pop up and say hello during some episodes, right, Bear? Yeah. Um, there he goes. He's saying hello to the world, Bear. Hello. Oh, this is my soul dog. I absolutely adore him. Hey? Yes. Yes. There are certain, aspects that happen in your life that you can see as traumatic, and I've come to learn death is something not to be feared of. When my mum transitioned, I was at a certain level of consciousness. I wasn't like a fully evolved individual. I wouldn't say that I am now. I would say that my consciousness has expanded greatly since then. Where, I understand that that's her soul path, that's her soul journey, that's what she chose. Some people may find that really difficult to understand, and that's okay too. So there is an acceptance there. However, I'm human, and my human's allowed to grieve that individual. And when I was going along this path, it can be confusing at times. It can be like, oh, like I can't feel certain things because I'm like consciously evolved, and I shouldn't be feeling certain things, and I shouldn't be feeling anger, and I should all be love and light. And this is what I found when I was like within the spirituality part of my journey, that I should be love and light. I shouldn't be like angry, and I shouldn't like do certain things for money, and I shouldn't be a certain way. So again, that was confusion for me. And I find that difficult. So I suppressed my emotions and I suppressed my anger. And that then had an effect on me on a health and a physicality way, because it had an effect on my energy channels. And what I've discovered is that the body is a transmitter. It's a transmitter of energy. The body is consistently communicating with you as to what's going on in your life. And, when I was going through the journey, I would connect with that. I would connect with like certain illnesses and ask myself why that illness was coming up in my life, and what my body was actually communicating with me at that moment in time. And I'd gained a lot of weight throughout the years, and again, I was miserable because it wasn't who I was. I had always been a fit young individual. I trained as a dancer. I absolutely loved dancing, and it was my way of channeling my emotions. But due to injury, I couldn't dance anymore. So I couldn't channel those emotions. And again, that energy builds up, and that energy kind of starts having an effect on your body because you're not recognizing what's actually going on, and you're not releasing that energy. So, I had to learn and adapt to that as well. So this consciousness journey is a journey where you really begin to understand who you are. And it's where you have to really look at the ugly truths as to who you are. And I'm not gonna lie, like, there's days I will lose my shit. There's days that I will get angry. There's days that I will feel sad. There's days where I will move through like some traumas and grief, and that's okay. This is part of the journey. The trick is to understand why you're feeling those certain things, and it's not to sit in them, and it's to pull them apart. Okay, and this is what I have discovered along my consciousness journey. Every emotion that comes up for me, I sit and pull it apart. Why am I feeling this? Okay, it's connected to this. What happened with that? Okay, so that's connected to my childhood. Why did I feel that in my childhood? And I would see certain things as to what happened in my childhood. So then I had a choice to understand what that was, and then I could see the different perspectives of that beautiful soul at that moment in time. They were only doing the best that they could at that moment in time. They weren't necessarily out there to hurt me. It's what they knew, it's what they understood, it's what they knew how to behave, okay? So I could then release all those pains, all those traumas, all those hurts, because I came into acceptance with regards to that. And for me, it was freeing. So there's days I ask, why did I choose this journey? Why did I choose? Because it's so difficult. And I'm not putting that out into the world. It's like, but it's also so, so magical. It's so freeing. If you had said to me 4 years ago, I would be where I am today. I would be sitting in front of a camera talking to you about my journey as such. And I'm only touching the surface really with regards to it, because I don't want to keep these podcasts too long. But if you said 4 years ago, I'd be sitting in front of you talking about my journey, talking about beings, talking about consciousness, talking about the quantum, talking about my traumas, talking about, everything that happened in my life, I would have went, you're having a laugh. There's no way I'm getting in front of a camera. Well, here I am. Here I am. Do I necessarily want to be putting myself out in the world and sharing my whole life with everyone? At this time last year, I probably would have went, not really, but now I feel there's an importance with regards to that. With everything that's happening in the world, there's people that are waking up to everything, the illusion, the truths. And with that, there can be some confusion. There can be some confusion as to who they are, because, they may ask themselves if they're going crazy, where I was at one stage. And they may see that there's actually more to life than what they've actually been told. And this is why I'm creating these podcasts, because, I want to create a safe space for beautiful souls that can watch these and feel connected, feel there's a community, feel that they're not alone along this journey. And there's many beautiful souls that will come on these podcasts that have certain skills, knowledge, and wisdom that could help beautiful souls along their journey. And this is the purpose, is to bring an awareness that there are beautiful souls out there that have gone through their soul evolution, their soul growth. It's been completely different from my journey. However, it's also been very freeing and liberating for them as much as it has been for me. And it's there to give people hope that all is not lost. All is not lost. That, it does get better. It'll always get worse before it gets better, but it does get better. And that in itself is freeing. That in itself brings you to a magical place of acceptance. When you can step into who you truly are and accept who you truly are, but accept everything that's happened in your life, and accept that it's happened for you, it's not happened to you. You remove yourself from that victim mentality. You release the shackles as such, and it allows you to push forward as to where you want to go in your life, what you want to do with your life. Because for me, life is a gift, and it's a gift to do with it the best that you can. And, this connection that I find within myself with regards to my energy, but the energy of source. Some may call it source, some may call it the universe, some may call it the creator, some may call it God. And, in my eyes, we only have one God, which is source, the universe. It's an energy. And that energy is within us. Again, there's profound proof with regards to that. And it's connected to sacred geometry. And Spirit came through to me not so long ago and said, we are sacred geometry. And I was like, what do you mean? So again, I done research. We are made up of cells. Our body, is cells, okay? We're cells. We're stardust as such. And within that cells is beautiful geometric patterns, which is your makeup, which makes you. You are sacred geometry. And this is where starflower comes from, because you're stardust, but you're here to bloom and grow. And some beautiful souls may choose not to grow, and that's okay. Like, that's what they've chosen. Right now, it's a time for us to all come together and accept who we are and accept our truths. It's not about pushing your truths on others at all in any way or form. It's about loving everything for as it is and as it are. You can be love and light, but you can also be dark and shadow. It's the duality. It's finding that duality within yourself. It's finding that balance within yourself. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I've got my shit together. No, I don't. I don't have all my shit together. In some aspects I do, but in some aspects I don't. Every day is a learning curve. Every day we learn more and more about who we are. Today, I may be a different person tomorrow, because some things may happen in my life today where I choose to look at and understand and let go, to allow me to step into a place of another path, another growth, another soul evolution. So if you're watching this today and you're like, I think I get what she means, beautiful. And if you don't get this at all, that's okay too. I am a person that believes deeply in helping others. I've always been that person from a little girl. All I've wanted to do is help and love people. And the biggest part of my journey that I had to learn is that not everybody's going to love and help me. And, the love that I give others, I'm not necessarily going to have that reciprocated to myself. And that's okay. It can be a very lonely journey, because people don't get who you are. But there are beautiful souls out there that will accept and get who you are. And, I'm really thankful and fortunate that along my path, along my journey, I have met so many beautiful souls that are very like-minded and that have made me feel that I'm not alone in this world. There are people out there that will accept me for who I am and will love me for everything that I am, and will give me the love that I give them. And what's really interesting is what I've had to learn recently is the love that I give others, but when I receive it, I'm really uncomfortable with it because, throughout my whole life, I've never really received that love. So how do I behave when I receive that? And, it's teaching me so much. It's teaching me, to let in, to let my walls come down, to not put my guard up because, that's life. That's how it should be. So obviously, as you go through life and you've never received that, and when it happens to you, you don't know how to behave. You don't know how to react to that. You don't know how to be. And again, that's the whole journey. If you talk about the law of manifestation, you attract what you are. You attract the energy that you are. So, with me working on myself for the past 4 years and connecting with who I am, I'm attracting the beautiful souls that are very like-minded. And, I could sit with so much gratitude. When I lost, and when my mum transitioned, I felt like I lost my world. But I gained so much. And I really had to see that. Whew, I had to see that love. And sometimes it was uncomfortable because I didn't know how to behave in that. Sometimes it's still uncomfortable because, I'm learning how to accept that. I'm learning how to behave in that. I'm learning how to be who I am. You never really get to the bottom of who you truly are. But if you can accept who you are, it's beautiful. You'll always, find certain moments along this journey where you go, oh, that's who I am. And you come into acceptance and you embrace it. From where I was 4 years ago to where I am now, I am a complete different person. I can see certain things that I did that maybe wasn't the best for society and the best for individuals. But I can forgive myself for those because, we only know and we only do what we know. But as you journey along the consciousness or the soul evolution or the growth path, there's an awareness. And this is what I need to talk about as well. There's an awareness of your behaviors. There's an awareness of who you are. So you can't play in those paradigms anymore because you've evolved and grown from that. So you step into this place where there's an awareness and there's an awareness of your behavior. And there will be times where you're tested to see how far you've come on your journey. Pardon me, we're burping. Truth burps. So what I've learned is everyone has choice when these certain tests come along. And sometimes you'll pass with flying colours and sometimes you won't, and that's okay. Again, it's who you are. But, with what I've experienced in life, there's this beautiful word term called cycles. And our soul comes down here to break cycles of the self, cycles of parents, your parents only know what they know and what they've learned. And we come down here to break certain cycles with regards to that, and break free from that as such. So with me doing the work and with me working on myself, it's kind of laying the foundations for my own children to not behave in certain ways like I did when I was younger. And I do this journey for myself, but I also do my journey for them. But I also give them choice. I don't force, my ways on them. I can plant the seeds, however, and there's a beautiful soul within my soul family called Irma, and she always asks, what ifs? So ask yourself, when certain things happen in your life, what if I did things a different way? What if that person didn't mean that? That's, where they're at on a consciousness level. That's, they're not necessarily set the intention to hurt me. So can I accept that's just who they are? And can I accept that it's not an intention to hurt me as such? I hope I'm making sense with everyone, because I do have this, ability where I can go from one subject to another subject to another subject, and I'll come back, and then it can be higgledy-piggledy, and that's just who I am. So when you go through this journey, there's an awareness of your consciousness and your behaviors and how you are with certain individuals. And it's always learning and growing and evolving from that. And you step into places where you become that other individual and you see their perspective and why they would behave that certain way. And it can be so freeing when you recognize that they're not set out to hurt you. It's just who they are. And some people may find that really difficult when you see all the badness in the world and you see all the abuse and the trauma, etc. And I get it. Trust me, I've been through quite a lot of trauma and abuse in my life. And I could step into a place where I can say I well and truly absolutely hate them. And I could hold grudges, and I can hold, I don't want them near me or in my life. What's that going to do to you on a mental and emotional level? Can you accept that that's just who they are? That you may never get an apology for the way that they treated you? Can you accept that, it was maybe a lesson? Can you accept that you had a role to play in certain things? And what do I mean by a role to play? You had choice. You had choice to either be the better person or remove yourself from that situation, but did you? Can you accept that you can forgive yourself for the roles you played? Can you step into love and, love that person regardless? And, this is what I've also had to journey through as well. All the people that hurt me in my life, I can love and accept them for who they are. I can release myself from that energy, because sitting with all that trauma and all that pain and all that hurt and all that resentment, it's not going to benefit me, and it's not going to benefit them, and it's certainly not going to benefit my children. So this soul path, this soul evolution, this soul growth, you can almost say is a healing journey, as well as a connection to the self, as well as understanding that there's more to life than what you've been told. It's a journey where you find solace within yourself. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I asked myself, how do I find safety when I've never felt safe in this world? And for me, if I can love me, if I can accept who I am and not be fearful of people's rejections or judgments or opinions, and see their perspective and their behaviors with that, then I find safety within myself. This, for me, is what the consciousness, the soul evolution, the journey is all about. Just be who you are, accept who you are, love every single cellular DNA cell as to who you are. Embrace who you are. If you love your quirkiness, like I am super quirky, I wear the weirdest of things, but I love that. That's just who I am. Like, I would always be fearful of wearing things that people would frown upon. Now I don't give a shit. I just let myself wear what I want to wear. I let myself be who I want to be, as long as it's hurting absolutely no one, and the intention isn't there to hurt anyone, then why hold yourself back? Why hold yourself back from who you truly are? And for me, like in relationships, etc., like I'm a single woman. I'm a single woman. And at some point through my journey, I was like, oh, I need a partner, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I needed to be accepted. I needed to be loved. I needed that validation. Now I don't need it. I don't need it. I just trust that, you know, the right person will be there when they're meant to be there, and it'll happen in divine time. But right now, I don't need that in my life. If someone comes along, then beautiful. They come in to, you know, what's the words? They come in to be my partner. They come in to co-create together. That's how I see this works. So beautiful souls, what time are we at? That's my path. That's my journey. That's my knowledge. And that's my wisdom for just now. Again, I've gone around in circles, and that's just who I am. So if you could take a little bit of a seed from what I've spoke about today and adapt it to your own, then beautiful. Beautiful. You're growing, you're evolving, you're expanding, you're stepping into who you truly are. For me, that's the purpose of this life, is becoming who you are and accepting and loving who you are. I love me. And people say, oh, she loves herself. Yeah, I actually do, and that's okay. Or people will say, you've changed. Why is it people are so fearful of change? Yeah, I have changed, thank you. I'm glad I've changed. I'm glad I'm not that version, that hurt, terrified, scared version that I was 4 years ago. I'm glad that I've evolved into a place where I accept who I am, where I accept, you know, the dark side of me, but also the light side of me. I accept my behaviors. I accept my traumas, I accept absolutely everything that there is to me, that makes me, the makeup of me. So, with that being said, this is the end of episode 1. Episode 2, I have the beautiful April with me, and she's from I've Got Your 8. It's a very interesting conversation. So I'm looking forward to sharing that conversation with you all. I want to thank you all for being here and for taking the time and the energy and watching this. If you feel pulled and you'd like to come on and speak about your journey and your path, or give your perspectives as to what this soul evolution, this soul path, this consciousness journey is, hit me up on email, starflowerjournals@gmail.com. Everything will be left in the description as to where to go, how to contact me, what this is all about. So please take some time and look at that. I will also leave links to my other YouTube channel, Glartic, where I speak a little bit more about my paintings and share my paintings with you all. So thank you again for being here. Until the next time, I love you. Keep going, keep working through. You're doing it. That is time for me to go. That was a wee reminder. So anyway, I love you all. Take care and keep smiling. Bye.